Sixth graders, okay, today we are looking at unit rate, and we will be able to answer the essential question, how do we find unit rate? So yesterday we watched a vocabulary lesson, and the day before that we had done some stuff with equivalent ratios and filling out a ratio table. Well, today what we're going to do is we are going to talk about comparing ratios, which is what we do with equivalent ratios, but we're going to talk about unit ratios and unit rates. So first, let's talk about what is a unit rate. Well, a unit rate is a unit of measure that compares one quantity to another. So it's like just a fancy fraction, another one, that compares one quantity of something to another quantity of something. So unit rate is a ratio. So it's a ratio used to compare one unit to another unit. Okay. Some units are like gallons, some are pounds, miles. We use a special word when we use unit rate. So unit rate, I should have highlighted this in a different color, compares one, okay? Compare one unit. That one is really, really important. So one unit to another. So we could have something like miles per gallon. Okay, this word per tells us that we are doing a comparison of miles to gallons. So the word per is actually a word that means two. It tells us to use a unit rate. Okay, another word would be cost per pound. Okay, this word per, again, tells us cost to the pound. Now, we're only doing for every one. So unit rate is for every one thing. So let's say miles per gallon. So let's say I did 60 miles per 1 gallon. Okay, so this line right here is our per line, not like a cat purring, but our gallon line. Okay, cost per pound, so like $5 per 1 pound. Okay, again, unit rate is right here. It's the 1. So unit rate means getting to 1. So equivalent ratios will always have the same unit. So if I'm going from, we're still using that same idea around equivalent ratios. So if I'm going from like 120 miles in 2 gallons to 60 miles in 1 gallon, I'm comparing two equivalent ratios. I just still have miles and gallons. I still have my ratio happening. So let's see what this means when you see it on paper, okay? So, for example, let's say that I have 5 large cans of spaghetti sauce. So I have 5 cans of spaghetti sauce. And its weight is 15 kilograms, okay? So 15 kilograms for every 5 cans, okay? So 15 kilograms for every 5 cans. So if I wanted to find the unit rate, I want to know how much per 1 can. So unit rate is always for one thing. So if I want to get to 1 can, I want to know, how do I get from 5 to 1? Well, I divided by 5. So how do I go from 5 to 1? I said 5 divided by 5 equals 1 can. So my number that's making the change, the number that makes the change, is dividing by 5. So on the top, I would also have to divide by 5. So this one here would be 15 divided by 5, and that gives me 3 kilograms. So in order to find the weight, it's 3 kilograms for or per 1 can. So all you're doing now is comparing it to 1 on the bottom. So every time we make an equivalent ratio, we're just finding it so that it compares to 1 on the bottom. Okay, let's do another example. A ratio of miles to hours, okay? So let's say that I walk 20 miles in 8 hours. That's a lot of walking, right? Okay, so 20 miles in 8 hours. So 20 miles for every 8 hours. But I want to know, how many miles am I walking per hour, or per 1 hour, my unit rate, per 1 unit. So unit rate means to get to 1, so my unit rate would be per 1 hour. Our job is to find out what goes on top. So how did I get from 8 hours down to 1 hour? Well, I divided, right? 8 divided by something gets me 1 hour. Okay, well 8 divided by 8 equals 1. So the number that caused the change, the number that forced the change to happen, is this divided by 8. And that's how I got to 1 hour. So if I divide by 8 on the bottom, that means then on the top, I also have to divide by 8. Now that's a really weird one, right? Because, well, that's not an even, like an even ratio or an even number. Like, we know that 20 divided by 2 would give us 10, or 20 divided by 10 gives us 2, right? So 8 would give us a decimal, and that gives us 2.5 miles for every 1 hour. So when we divide 20 divided by 8, we're getting 2.5 miles. So 2.5 miles per 1 hour. So that means that in 1 hour, I walk 2.5 miles. So this is my unit rate right here. That's it, because it has the 1 on the bottom. Okay, it's your turn to do a try it. I want you to find where it's for 1, the unit rate. So find me the unit rate of 8 kittens in 4 rooms. So we have 8 kittens in 4 rooms. And I want to know how many per 1 room. How many in 1 room? Okay, so your job is to tell me how many cats are in 1 room. All right, hit pause so that you don't see me solving this problem. And when you're ready, hit start again. All right, so let's see. I have 8 kittens in 4 rooms. So that means 8 over 4, 8 to 4. And I want to know how many per 1 room. So rooms to rooms, right? So 1 room. How did I get from 4 to 1? Okay, well, I did 4 divided by 4, and that equals 1 room. My number that caused the change is dividing by 4. So if I divide by 4 here, I'm going to divide by 4 there, and I get 2 kittens. 2 kittens per 1 room. Okay, how did you do? How did you do on your unit rate? That's our rate of cats to rooms. We're comparing kittens to rooms. All right, it's your turn now to answer your essential question. How do we find a unit rate? And then out in the box, I want you to tell me, how are you feeling about unit rate? 1, I don't know. I was just getting equivalent fractions and equivalent ratios, and now you're throwing in this equals to 1? What? 2, I'm doing okay. I just need to keep practicing. I know that it's for every 1 thing. Or 3. I'm doing awesome. This is just like equivalent fractions, except I'm always just going to compare it to 1. I just have to find whatever the number is that's causing the change. All right. If you have questions, make sure you ask me in Google Classroom so that you understand what to do. And then head on over to Big Ideas and do your practice work. And as always, make it a great day the Cougar way.